Hello, everyone, and welcome to Performance Anxiety's 29th online reading event. My name is Tom Snarsky, and I'm so excited to be with you this evening, or for me, afternoon, among this stellar group of UK-based readers. This is our second event highlighting UK poets. Our first was back in April, and we've just been absolutely bowled over by the incredible poetry and enthusiasm for sharing poems live with American audiences happening that's across the Atlantic from us. We're happy to have a very small snippet of the poetry goings on in the UK to share for you to see and hear tonight. In case you haven't listened in before, Performance Anxiety is an online reading series hosted via Skype. Usually we do the third Thursday of every month at usually it's 9 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Central, but we're a little bit early this go around so we can be 9 p.m. in British summertime as opposed to our usual Eastern bias. At each of our events, we usually feature as many as 10 readers to share selection of their writing, poetry, fiction, etc. with us. Having all these slots every month means we're always looking for folks who'd be interested in reading or sending along a recording we can share as part of the lineup. Some of our readers, if they couldn't make it live tonight, have been kind enough to share some recordings that we'll introduce in a while. So if you are, or you know, a poet or writer who'd be interested in sharing their work at a future event, please get in touch with us. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to get to know your work a little bit better. We're really excited that in the next few readings in August, we'll have some Performance Anxiety alums who are coming back, as well as some readers who couldn't make it tonight, but are really excited to share a recording, since that reading in August will be at 2 a.m., I believe, UK time, so a little bit prohibitive. But if you'd like to reach out on behalf of somebody, we tend to get a lot of our best and most excited readers through word of mouth from existing readership, and we are easily accessible on Twitter at Performance Anxiety, PERFORMANCEANXT, or you can DM the co-organizers directly on Twitter. I'm at Tom Snarsky on Twitter and Instagram, which is TOMSNARSKY, or you can email me at tomsnarsky, same spelling, at gmail.com. You can also get in touch with Kristen Garth, who is Performance Anxiety's other co-organizer and co-founder. She's at Lola Angelie on Twitter, LOLAANDJOLIE on Twitter, and at Kristen Ingrid Garth, KRISTININGRIDGARTH on Instagram. So without any further ado, I'm really excited to introduce the first of our live readers this evening, and that reader who I'm introducing now is Lee Campbell. Lee Campbell's poetry shares personal narratives that often relate to aspects of him being gay, British, and working class, employing barbaric wit and humor in their storytelling. His poem, Clever at Without Being Seen, was recently included in Sometimes the Revolution is Small, Disarm Hate by Poetry project by Nymphs and Thugs Recording Company UK, and was published by Queerlings magazine. You can watch a live Zoom performance of this poem with Lee's innovative uses of visuals and soundscapes next Friday online for Brazil's festival ECRA. Feel free to contact Lee for details if you're interested, and we'll share Lee's contact information after he reads for us. His poem Spinach and Eggs as a video poem has also been selected for Brighton's Film Pride, Brighton and Hove's Pride official LGBTQ plus film festival, which will launch in August. So thank you so much, Lee, for joining us. And because Lee's poems do have a visual component, if any of our readers need access to the transcript of Lee's recording or Lee's poems, feel free to let us know, and we'll make that accessible to you. Again, thanks for joining us, Lee. I'm really excited to hear your work tonight. Oh, I do think you might be muted, though, Lee.
That's better. Hello.
Hey.
Hi, everyone.
Perfect. I can hear you.
Thank you for the introduction, Tom. I'm gonna perform two shorter poems. Two shorter versions of two longer poems. The first one is called Clever at Seeing Without Being Seen, and the second one is called Spinach and Eggs. I, discover the same other whilst under the creeping, seeping, peep covert operations, my teenage fascinations, awkward altercations with non-queer populations, sensations that taught me, if they caught me, side cautiously deliberately blur, words that infer derogatory slur. I got very clever at seeing without being seen. That time in the 90s when the only way I could see men in their underwear was in vintage fashion magazines from the 70s, creeping downstairs to watch bad straight porn just to see a man naked, smuggling copies of Gay Times into my room just to see guys like me. Gay kissing scenes on TV, my dad trying to hide his discomfort, and sometimes not. Chelsea. Listening and watching to the football with my dad in the 90s. Dad watched the match. I watched the players. Dad remembers the midfielder's tackle. I remember the midfielder's tackle. Dad remembers the midfielder shown the red card. I remember the midfielder's red jock showing. At school, the artists she taught me all turned out to be queer. Did she know something I didn't? My teacher, Miss Cavalier, now so obviously glaring, my love of Keith Haring, and Mapplethorpe's men, erotic and daring. Yet this was the time when gay men were perceived. We all had AIDS, many straight folks believed. Maybe that's why I didn't fully inquire in the artist Miss taught me for fear of the fire. Take a look in my scrapbook, I remember his songs, but my eyes on his chest and what's under those thongs. Jesus to us, such a sad song that he sung, but I'll never forget George Michael or Wet in the video for Fast Love, All My Christmases Come. His album called Older helped me through tough times, be finding comfort in the beauty of what he wrote in its lines. Whilst I loved George and his chest back in late 87, this album taught me taught me gays don't just live and die heaven. Brighton, my first gay pub, Queen's Arms, George Street, heart aflutter, legs like mush. The street was George, my teenage crush. Here's where I learned, bigger the fish, bigger the tackle, bigger the fish, bigger the tackle. Invisible, queer, seeing and looking, look beyond fear, see and be seen. And the second poem is called Spinach and Eggs. Fit, fat, fit, fat, fit, fat. Queer is a disruption. We are the disruptors, young queer people. We're space architects, imagineers, creating spaces that destroy our fears. We survive in spaces where we thrive and our beauty comes alive. Yet these spaces we create, we animate by constant self-policing, say the right thing, body image. We're feeling quite oppressed ourselves. Early noughties, in my early 20s, the King's Arms in Soho, I discovered bears and cubs don't just live in the forest. I could feel the words in the stare of this most uptight bear. You could do with losing a few. But the only thing I was losing was my mind. Always 2 steps forward, always 2 steps back. I was bullied at school for being gay, now bullied by gays for being wrong fat. A community that preaches, be yourself, be you, but not you. How messed up is that? Just when I thought I'd finally caught the eye of a rather nice guy as I stood at the bar with my Stella Artois, he made me think he may buy me a drink, come over and ask when was I here last, and finally extinguish parts of my past circa 1989. You found the matches. Your coldness pushed me back into the heat and the fire and flames of those playground games that names and shames those who do not aspire to be Mr. Muscular hyphen heteronormative. Thank you, Mr. How to Kill Desire. Through his Bacardi and Coke and cigarette smoke, this excuse for a bloke, then crack joke after joke. Blue-eyed boy Lee, I love your dark, hairy legs. Shame the rest of your frame is like pie from Greg's. Be more like me on spinach and eggs. You can't be a cub, you're far too old. Put those legs out on show if you want to get sold. I'm getting quite tripped on these bodies, all ripped. Imagine mine stripped and everything flipped. Mr. Spinach and Eggs, you stick your rules and your regs in the hole at the back of the top of my legs. No body shame, no wrong kind of fat. Smashed the fan, rip the mags. We are a community, anti-being controlled, yet there are those who are persistently told, you are too slim to be fat, too thin to be that. When will we get over the labels and the stereotypes and just be? All you gamers, shamers, namers and blamers, stick your rules and regs, your spinach and eggs in the hole at the back of the top of our legs. And that's the end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lee, for starting us off with those firecrackers of poems and bringing such energy. The chat was blowing up with people enthused at just the way that those poems hit. And if you would like to see any of those poems in their video poetry forms, if you're watching the YouTube recording, I'm going to attach links to Clever at Seeing Without Being Seen and Spinach and Eggs as their YouTube video poem versions, because Lee is also a video artist, again, whose work you can see at these different festivals where, so Brazil's festival ECRA, where there will be a performance next Friday online, and also at the Brighton and Hove Pride Festival in August. So that again was Lee Campbell, whose work you can find on leecampbellartist.blogspot.com. And you can find Lee on Twitter at LeeJJCampbell and on Instagram at LNDNQueerPoet, LNDNQueerFilmmaker, and at LeeJJCampbell. Lee's next performance will be at the Paper Tiger Poetry at Tea House Theater on 31st July. Find Lee on socials for details about that. So what a great start for our beautiful evening of UK readers. Thank you, Lee, for being with us. And I'm really excited to introduce our second reader of the evening, and that's Naomi Foyle. Naomi Foyle is a British-Canadian writer and editor. Her eco-science fiction quartet, The Gaia Chronicles, is now available in North America from Quercus USA. Her many poetry publications include The Night Pavilion, a 2008 Poetry Book Society recommendation, Adamantine from Red Hen Pig-Hog Press 2019, and her new pamphlet, In Portents from Waterloo Press. Naomi, thank you so much for being here with us. I'm really excited to hear what you'll share.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom and Kristen, for helping me get over my Skype anxiety between 4 devices and 2 accounts. I'm never sure that I'm actually going to get into Skype, but here I am, so amazing. I'm going to be reading some poems from my new pamphlet from In Portents. So there's probably only one word I need to explain in the reading, which is the title of the pamphlet and the opening poem. Impotence is a word I coined to describe the feelings I had about the 2019 UK general election, in which, for the benefit of American audiences, Jeremy Corbyn's socialist hopes were dashed, and our mini Trump Boris Johnson won a resounding majority. So clearly a hugely demoralizing result for a lot of people. But while the title suggests impotence and the title poem deals with omens, the word and the pamphlet as a whole are also caution against fatalism. The prefix im, meaning not, suggests that poems might complicate the notion of portents. The future is not written unless we write it together. Impotence. The week before the election of the dictator, people hotly debated whether Friday the 13th was a lucky or unlucky date. The day before the election of the dictator, over 300 starlings were discovered dead in a country lane. The day of the election of the dictator, rain clobbered the streets, but hope still chattered in the air. The first day of the dictatorship, a storm on the other side of the world, dumped tens of thousands of fat innkeeper worms on a beach, a pale pink tsunami of a species also known as penis fish, for its striking resemblance to the semi-tumescent member of a unitesticular Caucasian adult male. An hour before their corpses were found, the starlings had been seen in murmuration. The post-mortem revealed they died of trauma and internal bleeding, consistent with flying hard into the road. From austerity politics, the pamphlet moves into lockdown poems, starting with a poem I wrote in January 2020, blissfully unaware of the ironies it would accrue over the year. 2020. Welcome to the year of twin swans emerging from 2 tunnels, I say, full of sorrow, having looked ahead to far distant centuries, and knowing no other date will ever match such elegance. In the floating mirror of 2020, we are all still visionaries. Such a perfect number, I almost wouldn't mind it on my grave. Some of the lockdown poems explore local geographies from the layout of my flat to the brutalist architecture of Brighton Marina. But for this transatlantic reading, I'd like to finish with 3 poems reflecting the impact of Black Lives Matter, which so galvanized global anti-racist movements in the summer of 2020 and beyond. One of my New Year's resolutions was to read more local newspapers. So in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, I went to the Minneapolis Star-Tribune and read a tribute to Floyd from his ex-partner, Christina Dawson. From Lockdown Week 10. That king should not have died before his time, says Big Floyd's ex-girlfriend, who now will never give him that bottle of tagine she was keeping for their first post-lockdown meetup, a shakeable mix of chili, salt and lime. Perfect on mango popsicles, margarita rims, corn on the cob, steak, fajitas, omelets, popcorn, hot chocolate, you name it. A Mexican life hack I only know about, thanks to a life hacked by America's axe. A gentle giant, complex king who had done his time, learned his lessons, found a precarious place working security at the Congo Latin Bistro, but who will never again hug his regulars, his children, felled across the path we all walk together until we don't anymore. Lockdown, week 11. America blazes, root, stalk, and branch. A cytokine firestorm, the immune system attacking itself, or a natural disturbance, a necessary wildfire, promoting crowns, sprouting plants, diverse young growth. As the debates ignite on timelines and phone screens, a student nurse from Uganda scrubs down after her shift and wonders again, was I careful enough? And finally, a poem that returns to Brighton and a walk I took with a friend on June 7th, 2020. On watching Edward Colston get dumped in Bristol Harbour. Was there a poem in the long grass today, in the black spotted blood drop of a ladybird claiming a stem, the reticence of nettles at a distance, that enormity of sky beneath which other people marched from Minneapolis to London, Amsterdam to Accra? If so, I didn't find it. Nestled as I was on the crest of a hill between Tower Block and Garden Centre, spiderweb and iPhone, failure and elation, a white friend with an elderflower posy, acknowledging her fear of black men on the street at night, and at my back, licking its blue lips, the history-hungry sea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naomi, for those incredible poems and for all of them. Were all of them from your pamphlet?
They were all from the pamphlet, yes.
Fantastic. So that again was Naomi Foyle, whose pamphlet, her new pamphlet, Importance, coming out from Waterloo Press, or out now, right? Is that right?
It is out. Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you for doing that. And if you'd like to find more of Naomi's work, you can find her on Twitter at Naomi Foyle, NaomiFoyle, and at Naomi Foyle Poet on Instagram, Naomi Foyle on Facebook as well. So that new pamphlet, Importance, is a sequence of zeitgeist polemics. It's available from waterloopress.co.uk or via Naomi's website, naomifoyle.com. Naomi's also the editor of Gramarye, the journal of the Chichester Society or Center for Fairy Tales, Fantasy, and Speculative Fiction. And she would welcome submissions of poetry and short fiction in the genres of the journal. The submission guidelines are at Sussex Folktale Center SUSSEXFOLKTALECENTRE.org. For those of us in the US, make sure you've got that UK spelling of center. So thanks so much, Naomi, for being our second reader of the evening and bringing such a great energy to those poems. And the third reader for tonight, our third live reader, is someone whose work I'm really excited to introduce, and that is Poppy Cockburn. Poppy Cockburn is a London-based writer and communications professional working in the visual arts. Her poems have previously been published by Anthropocene, where I personally got to find out about them, Black and Blue, Dust Poetry Magazine, and Rough Trade Books, among others. Her debut pamphlet, Feed Notes, was published by If a Leaf Falls Press earlier this year, and her pamphlet Waiting Room is due to be published by Invisible Hand Press next month. We're going to have some strong Invisible Hand Press rep this go-around. So thank you so much, Poppy, for being with us, and I'll get your poems up on the screen.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm quite anxious. Cool. So yeah, hopefully I won't go on too long, so just stop me if I do. This poem is called Corrupted File. I chose roses in Calippo colours, as though tropical cheerfulness could be bought cheap and given as a gift. I babbled like a brook, streaming on under the false impression I might be able to carry you along with me, till we stood on dry land, washed up, wearing sunglasses. I spoke about my own little parcel of unrealised hope, knowing full well that it was yours that had arrived. I wanted to become a magician, to learn how to transform craters into lush, cushioned hills. Flies kept landing on us, and I batted mine away, but you let them move undisturbed across your skin, like a tattoo, like crawling ink. Thanks. So the next one is called 12 Sexts, and that is in my pamphlet that's coming out next month. 1. You look into the mirror, into my wet eyes. There, I'm only an image of desire. You could do anything. 2. My breath is quick when you're online, a looping gif of trotting hooves. 3. Fantasy. You're a shadow. I'm a bright void waiting to be fucked. In monochrome, everything half beautiful, strobe lit. Occasionally you grant me glimpses of your life in technicolor. 4. I'm an animal. 5. The garden gates swing open as you drag me across the threshold. Apples rain down from the violet sky, rolling beneath us, overripe. The air is dense. 6. Do you want to take a picture? 7. Things that are red are undergarments, crumpled flowers, torn off and discarded, Cabernet Sauvignon dregs, scratched surfaces, impressions. 8. Hairs pattern the bedsheet in swirls from where they were gripped, then shook loose. Being held by you now seems almost counterintuitive. 9. Fun is subjective. 10. What is romance anyway, if not a necklace, if not the edges of death? 11. A photograph. Luminous strands of white dash my pale thighs in the dark light, the colour of innocence, glinting. 12. Remember me as someone's child. Remember the first girl you loved. The next one is a new one, plot objectives. Do you want it to be about a black orchid bathed in Hitchcockian light, positioned on a sweat-dewed pillow, a killer lover's note? Or about a Trojan rose with all its thorns concealed inside? Do you want it to be about a man whose skin falls off, who replaces it with poppy petals and no one questions it? Do you want it to be about a broken daisy chain or a painting of a water lily pond that recurs in bad dreams? About a blossom tree that only blooms if you sing to it in the mornings in a soft, low croon? Do you want it to be about a garden that shimmers, makes onlookers feel delirious? And if it isn't, if it's just about the grass that grows and continues to do so, will you accept it? Will you lie in it and try to be happy? The next one is another new one. Dream towards becoming an active citizen. I went to a funeral and fell into a dream. I was a whole damn dust-veiled town. My residents were the most apathetic people on the planet, the most nostalgic to and terrible at happiness. I wept at the thought of this, till they were flooded and marooned, till the surfaces of everything glittered as they tend to do when water and sunlight get together. I had to drain a canal in a distant suburb of my conscious mind in order to find a mood ring to save the population. I chanted to a made-up tune. An orchid doesn't need an exotic steamy place in order to grow beautiful and delicate, over and over again, till a fleet of dreamboats glided by, off-white arms outstretched in the pose of saviors. At some point, the husky laugh of the night spat me out onto the shabby mattress of the morning. A singing bird with 3 wings remarked on how my bones had grown lighter, luminous beneath my skin, and when I looked down, I saw it to be true. The next one's called Unsent Tweets, and it was sort of started from my unsent tweets. The moon stains on my bed sheets look so pretty today, I want an entire duvet printed with them. Hashtag Ike Dear. If the Barbican were a man, I feel sure I would fancy him, but he would be gay and not want me. I would like to see significantly more visual representation of the male nude within popular and unpopular culture. Hashtag equality. God, I can't wait for the roses and the little light-interrupted droplets that fall from petals and bodies. The future is a dog and a basket and a room. The future is a dog and a basket and a room around it, and a house around the room and a door I can walk through, but I'm not sure what the door looks like. That feeling when someone says, "Oh, you were red," and you were confused because you have always been red, wasn't it glaringly obvious? So what prevented them from seeing your redness before, and how come they can see it now? What happens if I reject a timeline and instead adopt a time circle? He said we were both damaged, like it was a wound we could share and swim around in. But I imagined closed doors with broken handles, something pacing silently between them. I am hosting a little wake for a minor heartbreak, and no one else needs to know about it, which is why I am not tweeting about it. And my final one is called Sweet Creep. Mr. Whippy wants my heart to get me 99 flake fresh, till I swoon beneath the cream of the sky's lactic tongue. Let's be kids again. Aren't we having fun? Thanks.
Thank you so much. That was Poppy Cockburn, whose poems, I think it was 12 Sex that was in Anthropocene, is that right? And that was great. And it's so cool to hear some new stuff too, and like that. But if you want to follow Poppy's work, you can follow Poppy on Twitter at PoppyPersonism, PoppyPersonism. And again, Poppy's pamphlet Waiting Room is due to be published by Invisible Hand Press next month, one of our Invisible Press authors, along with Charlie Baylis, who I'll introduce in a little while. So we're moving right through it. I'm like a buzz with awesome poetry, which is like one of the best feelings in the world, as you know, getting to MC all of this amazing stuff. And we're actually in the middle of our reading order now, and when we include both our live readers and the readers who have shared recordings with us. And as our middle reader, I'm very, very excited to introduce David Hanlon. David Hanlon is a Welsh poet living in Cardiff. He's a Best of the Net nominee. You can find his work online at over 50 magazines, including Rust and Moth, Iceflow Press, and Mineral Lit Mag. His first chapbook, Spectrum of Flight, is available for purchase now at Animal Heart Press. David, thank you so much for being here and for being our Wales rep tonight.
Thank you, Tom. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here, and I'm really enjoying all the poetry I've heard so far and looking forward to the rest. I'm going to read some poems from my debut collection, Spectrum of Flight, which came out last year. And I'm going to start with the opening poem. This is called I'll Never Forget the Dead Fox on the Roadside with its guts hanging out. Because I'd never seen a fox on my council estate before. Because the first time I did, it was daylight and it was dead. Because I was 7 or 8 years old at the time. Because I too only came out in the dark. Because its body was slack as a half-tide, overflowing bin bag dumped on a curbside. Its fur bloodied, matted with small bits of rubber and gravel. Because days later it was swarming with flies, and if you got close enough, the smell of rotten flesh, sharp and fetid, coated itself thick as plasterboard on your nostril walls. Because I imagined unrelenting screeches, machine versus feral, how someone had torn tire through muscle, easy as unzipping a tent, untangled its mass from their bumper, then carried it and discarded it on the roadside. How grueling this must have been, yet how tossed like a pancake the creature looked. Because it was the embodiment of abandon. Because it was disemboweled, bruised purple, swollen spaghetti marinated in roadkill crimson. Because I too had been gutted by a district called home. Because one time a bully, from entrance to exit, held a penknife against my gut as I panic walked through the local shopping centre, my school shoes scuffing and screeching against the bubble-patterned rubber flooring, each bubble theorising into a gravestone. Because it was stillness after chaos. Because we walked past it every day on our way to school, hands, blinds, tremble covering our eyes as we peeked through open slapped fingers. Because it was facing away from us, and I never saw its face, just its triangle ears that looked pricked. Because, against all reason, this still gave me some droplets of hope. Because that's how I learnt to endure. Because it was pet smooth, coat fire alive. Because it was a festering knot of blood-soaked snakes. Because it was more outside of itself than in. Because it was honest. Because when it was finally gone, our neighbourhood a body it was surgically removed from, with not a trace of flesh or entrails left, not a speck of blood. It was as if nothing had happened, because it was always like this. Thank you. The second poem I'm going to read is called Swimming Lessons. 1. They say I am gay, taunt and bully me. They think they know the damage. They don't. What is this word I do not know? I know more words than them, but this one is out of reach. Still, the decision has been made. It is me. It is bad. I am bad. When I learn what it is, come to realize for myself that I am it, I think, how could they have known this about me before I did? Why am I this bad thing? I try to hide it. I can't. I was thrown into the river behind that schoolyard and spent years swimming against the current. 3. At last I made it upstream, a gay man, bathing, floating, wondering what they would say now if I told them how lucky I feel that I became a strong swimmer. And the third poem I'm going to read is called My Voice Was Too Feminine, and it's after a poem by Eric Klein called Yours. My voice was too feminine, and this, like my mannerisms, directly affected how much bullying I received. I remember being a teenager in that sportswear store with my younger brother, too scared to ask the sporty, muscle-manly assistant for the Adidas cap I wanted on the top shelf behind the counter. I remember begging my brother to ask for me, too self-conscious of my own feminine voice being heard in a hyper-masculine environment. I wonder how many other times I have felt silenced in this way. I imagine the percentage is quite high, as well as it is for times I have been called fucking queer for holding hands with a boyfriend, or perhaps even higher, as it is for times I've had the opportunity to hold hands with a boyfriend and have not done so because of fearing said abuse. Well, this is me seizing all those missed opportunities, holding all those boyfriends' unheld hands. This is me, gay boy, batty boy David, holding all your hands. And the final poem I'm going to read is a bit further in the book. I'm just going to try and find it. There we go. It's just a short. I'm just going to end on a short one, and it's called Phoenix. Eventually, I capture the light of recovery in my hands, and, tightly cupped, I transport it to him, ready to spill its shine down his throat. I wanted to do the same for him, as it has done for me. But when I arrive, he is lip-stitched, and I realize I can't force him to open his mouth and let us in. I look down at my hands, feel ashes fall through my fingers, from which one day he will rise. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was David Hanlon, whose book Spectrum of Flight you can now purchase. Oh, I'm like losing my shit because I was so moved by some of those. So all my stuff's out of order. But again, that was David Hanlon, whose first chapbook Spectrum of Flight is available for purchase now at Animal Heart Press. So thank you so much, David, for those incredible poems and for sharing them so beautifully with us. If you'd like to follow David's work, I would strongly encourage you follow him on Twitter at DavidHanlon13, DavidHanlon13, and he's on Instagram at WelshPoetD. David also has a Facebook poet page, David Hanlon Poet. And again, David, in addition to being a wonderful poet, is a wonderful member of the literary community on Twitter. So give him a follow and read more of those poems. They were beautiful. It's always a little bittersweet to get to this point where we enter the back half of our reading order. So we have a couple more readers who have joined us live tonight, and then we'll actually have some recordings to share with you as well. But I'm very excited to introduce our next live reader, and that is Crow Rudd. Crow Rudd is a disabled, non-binary queer published poet and slam champion whose work focuses on mental health, grief, politics, and the power of cuddles. Creator of Sad Poets Doorstep Club and founder of the UK Trans and Non-Binary Poets Network, their debut collection, I Am a Thing of Rough Edges, is out with Whiskey and Beards. Thank you, Crow, so much for joining us tonight. I'm going to get your poems up, and I can't wait to hear them. Although you might be muted, Crow. Can anyone else hear Crow okay?
I'm here, just waiting for the poems to come up.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Sorry, my bad. Sometimes I, presume too quickly. So thank you very much. And here are the magic words that you have made accessible to us.
Pigs can't look up. Stay with me, I know it's wild. But we could pick a pick up one night and raise them into the night sky and tilt them ever so gentle. We can line that pig's eyes up with the stars. Imagine seeing a world you never knew existed, all these possibilities and avenues for exploration just clicking into place. I imagine that pig cries and drinks in every second as we hold them there, pig eyes wide, connecting every celestial dot and mapping out whole new constellations, avenues, opening. This pig has a different future now. This pig will, when we eventually close their eyes to this wonder, run to tell their little pig friends about what they saw. The other pigs won't believe them, but that pig will know. They will never stop knowing, and we will never forget. We have a different future now. What if pigs could be astronauts? What if they colonized planets? What would their habitats look like? What if we shared a night? Just you and me, upturning one pig after another. Do you think it would be enough? Oh, hello everyone. Well, thank you for listening to me. I'm Crow. Thank you, Tom, for having me on. That was my idea of date night. That's the kind of date that I take people on. That's why I'm single. I steal pigs. Anyway, yeah, the next two poems I'm going to be reading from my little book is I Am a Thing of Rough Edges, out with Whiskey and Beards. There'll be a link somewhere at some point, probably, hopefully. Anyway, yeah, this is Burn It Down. I was born in the comments section of the intellectually disconnected, the ideologically disconnected, the anarchistic, nihilistic, millennial keyboard warrior generation. where opinions hold more weight than action, and I've been badge breed self-satisfaction. And while activists on the streets campaign for change, they nitpick, kick bricks, pick bits that don't fit. These forums, for the self-professed downcast, exist to play on stereotypes, make food for parasites who rely on notions, pills, and potions to dictate dystopian promotions of what a good communist is. It's a generation full of choices, but they just made the wrong ones. Gramsci once said the tools of the state act together to make sure we have none. And the tools of the state, well, they're doing what they're told. Putting kids in cages and ignoring them when they're cold. Stealing them from their parents, lynching all control. How come they grow up when they can't even grow old? There were concentration camps in operation right now. 69-year-old Willem van Spronsen took it upon himself to take action. He set fire to 4 deputation vans, and he was shot 4 times in the chest. Next day, the comment section was rife with condemnation, because he shouldn't have gone it alone. Nobody offered to go next time. I'm labelled a utopianist, because wanting a way to fix the world is branded radical, and everyone's response to inequality is so sporadic. I hate the hypocrisy, the complacency. They say I'm unnecessarily angry, but what am I if not necessarily angry at people who think it's unnecessary to be angry? I was born with a phone in my hand and a match in my teeth. This tweet will be the Molotov that sets fire to these streets, because Spronson was right. We're just watching repeats. Parents losing children and being handed receipts. It's so easy to see that these armchair elites whitewash whole movements through flat screen TVs. They pose and they preen to look good for the screen, while innocent people are shot down in the streets. If there's one thing I've decided, by one thing I'm bound, I'm gonna burn this comment section to the motherfucking ground. Thank you. That was my angry political piece for the night. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was actually the first poem in my collection, and the next one's and the last one is the last poem. This is... all of my poetry is autobiographical, but this is the most autobiographical, if that makes any sense. Quick content warnings for mentions of addiction, self-harm, and religion. This is things I probably shouldn't put in my Tinder bio. I was born in 1996 as Thomas Mark Crossland. Birthed into this melting pot of violence and addiction. By the time I was 3, I had scars from operations and scars from accidents and scars. I don't remember any of it. My memory doesn't stretch back into single digits. My mother, in her infinite wisdom, didn't quite like the way that rolled off the tongue, so I became Thomas Mark Rudd. I'm not sure why she kept the middle name, a match to cauterize the wound, perhaps, so I figured that enough was enough. I couldn't keep being this reminder of his neglect. By 13, I had dabbled in churches, New Age prayer circles, Christian rock bands, and when I realised I was queer, I got my first silver chip. You see, fire and brimstone's a hell of a thing when you're being tempered in the heat. By 17, I was a lot more queer and a lot more into hurting myself, so I dropped the chip and went back to church, and I started smoking and fucking and fucking and smoking, and I've always been ace. So I was never really into it. It's just what the cool kids were doing, and fuck, did I want to be cool. Meanwhile, the smoking turned to drinking, and the drinking turned to drugs, and then back into drinking, and still into smoking, and back into hurting myself in every way that I could, and thinking no, knowing I could never do any good. So while I struggled to pick up the pieces of my life from the plush carpet of my parents' disappointment, I pieced together a phone and used the flashlight to spill ink from rotting ribs. I turned myself inside out and started writing, cataloguing every flaw, every mistake, to improve. That's where I am now, strapped down to stainless steel, open and bloody and raw. A dissection of lapses of judgment, an arterial map of mistakes and regrets, frayed nerves and crossed wires. I don't call myself Thomas anymore. I think that person died when I decided to take responsibility. When I cracked my ribs open, they oozed out onto the floor. Spoiled ink from a broken pen. I'm not quite sure what I am yet. I guess what I'm trying to say is, hi, I'm Crow, 25, non-binary, York. Not interested in hookups. I'm passionate about hand-holding and the destruction of capitalism. Thank you very much. I've been Crow Road. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Crow, for that's a better introduction than the introduction I gave. It's beautiful. That again was Crow Rudd, who you can find on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at StuffPunksDo, StuffPunxDo, and their book is available through the Linktree, so linktr.ee/anxious anarchist poetry. That is again the collection I Am a Thing of Rough Edges, out with whiskey and beards. So thank you so much, Crow. And I'm really excited. Again, it's a little bittersweet, but it's always really cool because we've just been absolutely bombarded with beautiful poems tonight, and I'm very happy for that to continue. We're actually introducing our last live reader of the evening, in Stephen Moore. And Stephen Moore lives in Gloucester between the Cotswold Hills and the River Severn. He grew up in rural Somerset. He's a relatively new poet, but his work has developed through some input from other poets locally. He's really excited to begin developing some themes, and we're really happy to have him on here with us. So Stephen, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm going to get your poems up, and thanks for taking the leap into live poetry.
Okay. The first poem is called Colder Then, and this is a trip back in time. Some of my work does sort of reflect back to where I grew up and what it was like. This is called Colder Then. I'm a child of the 70s. I was alive when winter threw its ice, and I grew up shivering. Overnight, the worst of winter would drone through the gully in our old back-to-back. Raw air that brings grains of white cold snow to our rooftops and windows. Winter is a finger that taps on the glass. It snaps at branches, freezes water. A morning of cold blue light wakes me, and my first breath blows steam in front of me, a red nose rosier than summer petals. I shake off the heavy blankets and numerous sheets as I roll out of my sanctuary bed, toes on the floor, feet begin to freeze, so cold. Ice-covered frozen pond of windows distorts the light of cool green garden firs. Ice runs. Cold rivers flow down the glacier pane to meet the white, cold metal that rusts. Teasing off shards, destroying Jack's work. I'm the icebreaker boy, forced to make a view through the glacial pane. Calling from the kitchen comes some warmth, central heating in a bowl. There you go. And the next one is inspired by the emblem of my secondary school. It's a dragonfly that I wore on my school blazer and school jumper. And we were asked to write a poem about insects in a poetry group that I belonged to, and that just came to mind. So this is called The Last of the Boltonites Radstockonesis, if that's how you pronounce it. Our head teacher said they found you in coal. entombed for eons, a carbonized three-dimensional family album print, trodden deep beneath forgotten swamps and canopies till the coal tip, a sorry place full of the waste of all that we scrabble to find and burn. Some eye makes you their prize, and Bolton replies, "He was giant in flight, ahem. How mighty a beast, how resplendently you hover. A magnified prize held to scrutinize amidst your lesser modern forms." He continues my imagined report. Wings like leaded lights. Cathedrals might use your wings as window panes. You hover over green, feather-edged, blue, tepid pooled water, a wired gem beneath your silver fans. The glint of sun catches the cobalt blue of your body, and you shine like wild sapphire. Four blades cut the humid heat. You swim on the thermal tide, a bridesmaid in blue and green, surfing the warmth. Mighty Meganora Ratstokinesis dives to find some morsel, hovering momentarily above lime green fronds. Something catches the last sight of your eye. Something blinds you, and the pool beneath you swallows you whole. You lie beneath the ground, compressed, petrified, till the collier's axe swings and a rusty shovel casts you aside. Staring at me, some facsimile in a museum. A minor, trivial tribute to you, giant winged delight. There you go. And as Tom mentioned, I live very close to the River Severn, and there are places along the River Severn where you can find the wrecks of the boats that used to trade on the river. And this is about one of those, and imagining what it might have happened in the life of the boat. It's called Wrecked. This hulk, carved from a line of oaks, rests like a drained cup. Sailors slopped long ago to their dotage on a bed of loam and earth. Beast of a river silenced, an amnesiac to the memory of water, deaf to the slop of the breaker, dry, a recovering alcoholic, missing your sip and slip into water. Beetles find a feast. They eat the husk of timber as it decays on the weathered cage of rib on this wooden spine. A girl called Nancy once sang on the deck for all the sailors she might covet to her lonely breast while the captain sank rum. Her breath's now lost on the wind, but the richness of her cry remains amidst the shadows of your past. Sevenside you rest, the last of a fleet long lost to trade in the river runs and cargo hauls. Thank you very much. It's an honour to be amongst such talented company, and I hope I've done something to create an impression.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for joining us. It's always really exciting to get to share space with, especially poets. Is this your first online reading?
It's the first outside of the county. So I've performed, in Gloucestershire, but this is the farthest I've travelled, so it's exciting.
Going international. Thank you so much, Stephen, again for being with us and for sharing those poems. That again was Stephen Moore, who you can find on Twitter at Harry_M_77. So check out Stephen's work, and we're excited as you'll be sharing more of it with the world, I'm sure, in the coming months, years, and beyond. So at this point, we have actually reached the end of our lineup of live readers, but that does not mean we have reached the end of the poetry that we have to share with you. We have two more readers, both of whom kindly shared recordings of their work with us beforehand, and I'm very happy to introduce the first of those, and that is 1990s Chris. 1990s Chris is a queer working-class writer from Hereford. Specializing in poetry for film and audio, Chris has written for Channel 4's Random Acts and BBC Sounds. His work hopes to start conversations around queer identity, masculinity, and class. Erasure Island is available on BBC Sounds now, so I'm very excited to introduce Chris. I just got to do a little rigmarole on the sound for a second to get Chris up. And if you need transcript of Chris's work, we'll be seeing the video that he shared with us. But if you need access to the transcript, feel free to reach out to us and let us know. We'll be happy to share that with you. So give me just a moment to get that up. And here is 1990s Chris.
Hey, I'm 99's Chris. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me. Thanks to Tom for having me here. It's really nice to be able to get to read. So thanks for that. I'm just going to go ahead. This one is called The Speckles. There are speckles in the grey. No skirting boards or nothing. It just creeps up the wall 6 inches before meeting the black rubber strip. The speckles and the inverted islands of piss catch the flickering light. It's all a bit charming, with the background noise of Cotton Eye Joe muffled through the classic 2-door airlock. When you're in here, you notice the way the 2 doors create space between this stench and the one out there. You can feel the human chemical compound combine, the natural and synthetic, as it blends inside your nostrils as it wafts up from the trough. It's not like you can't breathe, more that you can't get away. And they're always there, aren't they? Good night, is it, mate? I don't understand why they do it. I don't know if it used to be acceptable, but they do it every time. Same blokes that don't like Graham Norton on Principle and can't listen to Wham without telling you a cautionary tale about George Michael. Good night, says it again. Breath wheezing out of him, like I didn't hear him the first time. He fucking dead-eyes me at the bar, but at the urinal, he wants a natter. I can't talk to my dad in the car on my own, but here I am, with my good loafers, straddling puddles of piss, admiring the speckled flooring, ignoring a lonely stranger, our 2 dicks bobbing about, limp and gushing. He just wanted a chat. I just wanted a piss. I tell him, yeah, it was fine before all this. Cheers, thank you. So I just wanted to read a few poems sort of around masculinity and anxiety. I do a lot of work in the US actually as a facilitator, facilitate on kind of poetry for mental health. So a lot of work around masculinity and queerness, things I'm very passionate about. So yeah, I just wanted to share some of my work around kind of pub culture, masculine culture, and some of the anxieties that I feel from that as a queer person. So yeah, that was that one. Stage fright, which is such a thing when you're going for a wee is a weird thing, isn't it? When you're a bloke, there's a lot of politics around it. But I want to read now this one called Before the Game, and I hope you like it. We are sat in the hellfire of each other, me and you. We both wear polo shirts, but from different brands. Yours says to me you like horses. Mine says to you I only like football and think I'm edgy, which is true. The game starts in 10 minutes, and I know you don't really follow it, so that's a dead end. I don't know why we never suspected it, but this moment crept up on us in a way we have not prepared for. A shot of pure horror slides itself down our throat. We realize this is the first time we've been alone together, and we choke. Instantly, we know why it hasn't happened before. It's a bit like one of us has come out of the shower as the other one's trying to go in. Towels wrapped around ourselves, so close to vulnerability that we seize up entirely. I think about how it'd be weird to text you, but if we were both out with someone we both knew, it would be weird not to tag along together. As we fumble for something to fill the gap between us, we keep our eyes fixed on the pull-down screen, the dodgy projection. It catches some heads on the way through, outlines of men. You almost catch me off guard with a surprisingly visceral reaction to an advert for a comparison website. You tell me you hate those fucking little rap things, that they just aren't funny, that you don't see the point in them. I keep my face neutral as I think about how it is an odd thing to feel so strongly about. Strong feelings are normally fair game, but one-on-one there isn't enough of a buffer. I can't ask you what they've ever done to you or tell you that you need to calm down and have a wank or something all pent up like that. Savage comments that aren't diluted with laughter show us too much of our undersides. We do not have the stomachs for it. To avoid feeling completely awkward forever, I match your outrage with a fabricated passion for car insurance. I tell you that I actually got a good deal with them, that everyone else was about 200 quid more, or I'd have to get one of those black boxes, and I'm not a fucking shandy. You tell me only girls get them. You've had a bit of car trouble. Your Ford Focus is nippy but a bit thirsty. We both work through the language like hand-me-down clothes. It's all a little bit too much for someone else. You at prom with your dad's funeral blazer on. Me, too much gel and the overuse of a comb on a photo day at school. We can only trace the outlines for so long. You falter first and in your own voice tell me you're trying to save for a deposit. Got your eye on a plot of land. You'd love to build somewhere. Making stuff with your hands just makes you feel good. I say I could only just afford my Astra. You laugh and say it looks in good nick and that you heard I'm doing all right for myself. I'm surprised at how much I like you when you are serious. When you aren't trying to impress who you think I am or who you think we're supposed to be. I want to tell you what this means. But you just tell me the girl by the jukebox has nice tits. I'm not even sure if you mean it. Cheers, thank you. Bit of low-key pub anxiety. How do we talk to each other? We don't really know. Let's just do impressions of men so we can connect. Which I love, hilarious thing that we all do. This last one is from a piece of work I made for BBC Sounds. It's called Erasure Island. It's all about bisexuality and bisexual erasure. So yeah, if you'd love to go check that out, that would be a thing that I would love for you to do. So yeah, go and see that if that's something that you're interested in and you like anything that I said or read or whatever. Yeah, go have a look. I'm interested to know what you thought. So if you liked it, if you hated it, whatever, just let me know. It's all good. This one's called White Knuckle Pine, and cheers for having me. I've kind of have enough of the comments. I'm just going to slip it in, see what they make of it. Amber Rose is hot, yeah, but do you know who's really fit? Tom Hardy. I hold my breath for the reaction. Regret my momentary bravery. Sit my cider in the silence as they try to work out what to make of me. There are tense shapes of men. Polo shirts stiffen with shoulders that withdraw. Friendly faces curl into smirks. It's not the same anymore. Some take big gulps of lager, needing a little too long to think. Some gasp for air after half finishing their drinks. Others fidget flicking beer mats with work-stained fingertips. Someone has put the heat lamp back on, warming the cold golden sips, waiting for someone to call it what it really is. Ha! You're a funny one. You're making yourself sound gay. I suppose he's in good shape, yeah, but what would your missus say? I laugh. She'd probably agree. The tense shapes of men return to slouches, grins, and chuckles. I loosen the grip on my pine. Pale-faced, white, knuckled. Thank you very much. I'm 90s Chris. Cheers for having me. Take care of yourselves.
That was 1990s Chris coming to us via video recording, and as a fellow Tom Hardy enthusiast, I really appreciated Chris's video. If you'd like to follow Chris on Twitter or Instagram, you can find him at 1990s Chris 1990SCHRIS on Instagram and Twitter. And also, if you look at Chris's Instagram bio link, there's a zine called Worker Types Zine that I believe he's in, may have had a hand in publishing, but also is definitely want to plug. And like Chris mentioned in the video, reach out to him if you'd like to discuss all the awesome stuff he's got going on. I'm really excited to introduce our last reader, someone whose work I've admired from afar. We've been on a poetry Discord together for a while, and it's really nice to get to host him here, and that's Charlie Baylis. Charlie Baylis is from Nottingham, England. He's the editor of Anthropocene and the chief editorial advisor of Broken Sleep Books. His poetry has been nominated twice for the Pushcart Prize and once for the Forward Prize. His most recent publication is another one from Invisible Hand Press, who's killing it right now. It's called Santa Lucia. He spends his spare time completely adrift of reality. So here in a moment will be Charlie Baylis for your listening pleasure.
Hi there. Sorry I couldn't make it in person. I'm in prison. Kidding. I'm double booked. Just going to read 2 poems. Won't take too much of your time. I have a pamphlet to promote from Invisible Hand Press. Please buy a copy. First off, I'm going to read the title poem from an earlier work, which is Hilda Doolittle's Carl Jung t-shirt. Crazy title, crazy poems. I say a lot. So this one's called, as I said, Hilda Doolittle's Carl Jung t-shirt, and it's for Sigmund Freud in Apology. Hilda, I have many thoughts of you, the little that you do, you do. The grass burns on a knoll in Berlin. There are lesbians kissing in soft core, soft pom-poms, soft 32 dimensions. Where is the pear in your purple heart? You send black roses, your legs are a fallacy. Your dark eyes shine like the apocalypse. You are Mother Mary and Sister Ray. I lost my Oyster card in an octopus's garden in the shade as all the hens stumble sideways, and I can't remember the next line. Hilda, can we move somewhere with better taste? The bright lights are confusing baby turtles. The rocket in my salad might punish the atom. Kiss me, or your vowels pound with sound. But your features are isometric. Young forever is the legend on your t-shirt. A semi-literate joke, but I don't want to stare for fear I'll offend you. As you may think I'm looking at your breasts, which I am, but I don't mean to. Hilda, if I apologize, it's not that I'm sorry, it's that I think I should be sorry. Here's one from Santa Lucia, the new pamphlet or chapbook, as you may call it. It's one and the same thing, really. So I'm going to read, if I can find it, Chalcot Square. Another poem for an American poet. Do you know which? Chalcot Square. Words appear on the walls, great lakes strung from her fingers. Builders vomiting multicolored glitter over gravel. The grass bends back, lacing the ditches with dull green from where we admire ponds full of nothing. Twins walk past the gates, desperate for contact with the dead. Shadows hover over the sun. Expanding patches of silver leave a scent on the lawn. The swing set swinging still. Tigers in the lemongrass. Dolly mix ice cream. Red roses blushing into onrushing day. She pulls the plug from the whirlpool, flips vertical. The moon holds her in the palm of his hands. The north winds moan, impotent gods, flickering, wet with sap. Water lilies, despotic moths, unkind destiny. The sky is only blue because we're locked in. there you go. Thank you very much. If you're interested, Invisible Hand Press, you can get a copy on the website. Good luck to all the other readings and have a great night. Take it easy.
That was Charlie Baylis. Fittingly, I feel like that's a great untimely poetry move, is wishing everybody good luck after they've already read. Like, I did that to Charlie, so that's not quite fair. But that again was Charlie Baylis. The Chalcott Square poem. I didn't ask Charlie, but I'm guessing it might have been for Plath, because I think Plath lived on Chalcott Square, if I'm right, and someone else who's got better knowledge will be able to tell me. But before we debate where Sylvia Plath's former whereabouts, please do follow Charlie Baylis on Twitter at Charlie Baylis, CharlieBaylis 6, so Charlie Baylis 6. He doesn't really bother with anything else he says, but you can find him on Twitter there. And again, Santa Lucia is out from Invisible Hand along with Poppy's chapbook or pamphlet. We'll get the terminology. We'll just kind of accept an equivalence between them. From Invisible Hand. And with Charlie's recording, we've actually reached the end of our list of readers for tonight, live and remote via video. So just to close, I would love to thank you all so much, to our readers, especially for sharing their beautiful work with us this evening, and to our listeners, both live and in the YouTube recording, for giving this hour plus of your life over to poetry. I hope that if you are listening with either a sheaf of your own new poems close at hand, or with somebody in mind who you think would be amazing to hear read, please consider dropping us a line at Performance Anxiety, PERFORMANCEANXT, because it was too long with all the other letters, on Twitter, or you can email me, tomsnarsky@gmail.com. We would love to have you at a future event. Our next reading will be on August 19th, so the third Thursday in August. We have an amazing group of UK poets who couldn't make it tonight, plus US poets who will be returning, or new voices, and we're really excited to feature them. And one of our traditions is that we always try to close Performance Anxiety with a poem, because that feels like the way to do it. And so I'm going to share a poem from one of my favorite UK poets, who is unfortunately no longer with us, but whose collected works were recently released. And that is Grace Lake / Anna Mendelsohn, whose work I am slowly trying to get onto our little set list document so you can see it just as well as I can see it. And Niles, who is my cat, is very loudly, opinionatedly saying, "Oh, Anna Mendelsohn, hell yeah, let's do it." So let me get that up here, and then I'm going to read to close us out tonight. There we go. The Arrested Poem. The arrested poem, whose life was in sync with life, is unable to be with you, despite her own wishes. Was not dressed in a polka-spotted bikini, could not and cannot act like a leggy Shirley Temple. Had not the giggle, the gasp, or the gulp, was not Miss Sweetie Pie. Has nothing to say in her own defense to those who search for the final solution. Will not speak of war with enthusiasm, will not be mistaken for any who do. Will not give her history, her moment, either when she decorates her breastplate with discs that imagination waits for calling itself judge, handing out words at the door. Airlessly, artlessly, callously, my body was taken, lifted into the persona of an immense replica. The cackles and jibes of the drunk women recedes into memories of underdevelopment, good books, films, and fine art care for our intelligence. This was Republica too, moving, a dancer with the New York Ballet, in tears over indecency, revulsed, without a law to ensure her equality. In one body we moved to the stage, but the doors were of iron and bolted against us. And now we lie falling into microbes and stray foils, ready to meet our archaeological morning.